Thanks to this viewer for suggesting this book. Based on this book recommendation, I have to assume that they're a very horny comedian, and I wish them good luck on their next routine. How do I express the hell that I've experienced? How do I express the hell that I've just gone through? With every book, I try, sometimes don't succeed in conveying the emotion of that book, why you'd want to buy it. And this book just has a special place of hell for me. The kind of hell you might experience if, like, your friend is, like, being a little too sexy, and you need to, like, get that sexy thought out of your head. So what you do is you go to a pornography store, and that way you'll fill your head with more impure thoughts, and that one will just be drowned out by the other thoughts. But then you need to choose what sort of pornography you need to buy, and what kind of taste and image the person will judge you for. So you need to get like a profile of the person, and then you need to do this whole mental calculation. What are they going to think of me for buying this pornography? So you go for the most classy one that you can, and ideally you also buy like a big, like, educated book to let them know that you are a serious person. And then when that's all done, you need to really, really think about what kind of thoughts really appeal to you, because the entire point of this is to remove the thoughts of your friend from your head. That's the kind of stuff you need to do. But also think, like, if you were heading home, what would people think of you if you died with these magazines? Like, you don't want a magazine that will cause your parents to be like, oh, my son, he's dead. What was he buried with? That would just, like, you want people to mourn you. You don't want to go out in that kind of way. So what I recommend is that you just get all of it. So that way they can't make a judgment. It costs your bank account. But if you ever have an impure thought, you should buy all the pornography. And to show that you're courageous, you should not buy any other book to cause judgments. And that incision is exactly the hell that this book brings on. So, Kizumonogatari is a Japanese high school story about a boy who gets in, I guess I could call it a harem, and becomes a vampire, and the plot of the book is to stop from being a vampire. As that intro might have shown you, he is a rambling, extremely awkward dummy with questionable logic and reasoning. A huge portion of the book is the fact that someone clearly has a crush on him, and he cannot acknowledge that. To the point where the class president, Hanakawa, is basically, like, strip-teasing in front of him, and he's like, oh, this is a test of my friendship. Which leads me to the criticisms of this book. One, it's extremely indulgent, which could be a good thing for you. Two, the character's idiocracy is really funny, to the point of, like, hyperbole and a half, like, my neighbor must have thought that there was no child who was insidious enough to steal all of their birthday cakes, but they would be wrong. Kind of levels of humor, where people just get head up about some emotional thing, and, like, a way of interpreting thing, and they're with all the clues saying that they shouldn't do this, they just keep going headlong into it until eventually, like, oh, it is, like, a huge point of the humor of this book, and I think that it really lands. But then when the main character is actually forced to make, like, important decisions, and is somehow granted powers by everyone, and, like, to accomplish the goal, I generally was not happy with all of them. They got so stupid that I got frustrated with them, especially at the end, when their moral choices were questionable to me. The other criticism I have for the text is that it's a bunch of deus ex machinas. It's a bunch of fairy godmothers, more or less. The main character is a standard Japanese boy, who is obviously there to comment on trends within anime. The author is clearly taking, like, their tastes and their anime and the things that they love the most, and is clearly putting them on full display for the world to see, and doing it in as fun of ways as possible. And I think that that's actually admirable, and the fact that they've achieved such success is really good. But, like, Araragi is so stupid. Like, every other character seems to be a fairy godmother for this dude. To the point where almost any decision he makes, everyone else kind of rolls with it. Like, the equivalent would be a CEO of a company who makes, like, a really boneheaded decision, and then it just happens that every person in the company is, like, a lockstep to make whatever decision, whatever dumbass decision that they came up with, work with whatever they actually wanted the company to go, and the CEO is like, yes, I did this. And it kind of feels like that at all. That said, Araragi seems to really hate making choices, which frustrates me to no end. That said, the character interactions, the humor, the narration, and the tone of the book being this comedic rom-com. I can't call it horror in good conscience. The book seems to be pretending like it's a horror, but really it's not. Comedy action rom-com does land all the beats. I just find the main character mostly insufferable. I find the fact that a lot of women are pretty much exist to encourage him and exist to be like fawning over him, and that there's a lot. I think a lot of the sexually explicit content is actually really funny. Like Hanakawa, I don't want to talk about specifics. Let's just say that there's a 2-page description of risque things done by the main character, and he's like, not that I was being dirty or anything, and that kind of stuff really sells the character as well as sells the humor and sells what kind of audience it is. I think at the end of the day, I'm not the right audience for this book, but I think that for those who are indulgent, it is. And my biggest criticisms come with the way that the main character's morality is handled, as a lot of his decisions are just so dumb that I'm like, even if I was in the right audience, I would want to strangle this. For me, I think I actually would have preferred this novel without Araragi in it. I would have much preferred seeing Class President Hanakawa solve vampire murder mysteries and just be kind of smart and clever about it. Granted, her motivation seems to be help Araragi, so her motivation would need to change. But as a character that's already kind of weak, so I would still prefer that. Kizumonogatari is the prequel to the Bakemonogatari franchise. Bakemonogatari means monster story. Bakemono means monster. Monogatari means story. So really it's more like mon-story, which means that this story really missed the ball at calling itself vamp poem. Instead it calls itself wound tale. But that's neither here nor there. I have already decided that I'm going to keep up with the series because I've heard that it gets much better from here. And I really look forward to seeing the comedy writing and narration of the main character, because oh my god, he's so stupid, but it's stupid in like a really well planned out way. It's a very funny way for me. If this sounds like the kind of book that's right for you, then check out Kizumonogatari. Bye. A flat, B flat, flat is all I see. What I wouldn't give for a double D.